My wife never defended me, not once. I didn't notice it at first. That's the part that still embarrasses me. When you love someone, you explain their silence for them. You translate it into kindness, patience, or wisdom. You tell yourself they're avoiding conflict, keeping the peace, being mature. You tell yourself a lot of things so you don't have to look straight at what's happening. We met when we were both young and still impressed by small gestures. She liked that I listened. I liked that she laughed easily. She used to hold my arm in public, used to squeeze my hand when someone told a bad joke. I thought that meant we were a team. I thought loyalty was assumed. The first time she didn't defend me, it was almost invisible. We were at a dinner with her friends, people I didn't know well yet. One of them joked that I was quiet in a way that felt temporary, like I was borrowing confidence until I could afford my own. Everyone laughed. I smiled too. My wife laughed the loudest. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself she was just trying to keep the mood light. Later, in the car, I mentioned it casually. She shrugged and said, "It was just a joke. Don't be so sensitive." That word, sensitive, followed me for years. After we got married, the pattern grew clearer, but still subtle enough to ignore if you wanted to. At family gatherings, her brother would tease me about my job, about how it wasn't impressive enough, how I should have aimed higher. My wife would look down at her phone, or she'd smile and say, "That's just how he is." When my own family visited, and her mother criticized the way I spoke, the way I dressed, the way I carried myself, my wife stayed quiet. Once, she even nodded. I learned to swallow my reactions. I learned to laugh when people laughed at me. I learned to soften my voice, so I wouldn't seem defensive. I learned to disappear in rooms where my wife was fully present. What hurt wasn't just the silence. It was the way her silence felt intentional, strategic, as if defending me would cost her something she wasn't willing to spend. At work events, it got worse. She worked in a fast-moving office with confident people who spoke loudly and praised themselves often. I was proud of her. I supported her career, rearranged my schedule so she could stay late, listen to her vent about meetings and politics. When she invited me to company functions, I went gladly, believing I was there as her partner. But in those rooms, I wasn't her husband. I was an accessory she didn't want to explain. Her boss once joked that she had married down because she had so much potential. People laughed. My wife laughed too. Not nervously, not apologetically, comfortably. I felt something shift in my chest that night. Not anger, clarity. For the first time, I saw myself through her eyes. Or worse, through the eyes she allowed others to have of me. In the car, I didn't say anything. I waited. I thought maybe she would. She didn't. At home, when I finally spoke, she sighed. "You're overthinking it. He didn't mean it like that." "How did he mean it?" I asked. She paused, then said, "It's just how people talk." What she didn't say was just as loud. "This is how people talk about you." Over time, I stopped going to those events. She didn't protest. She said it was probably for the best, that I didn't seem comfortable there anyway. She framed my absence as my choice, my weakness, my limitation. The silence followed me into our private life too. When we disagreed, she didn't argue. She withdrew. If I tried to explain how I felt, she'd say I was being dramatic. If I asked for support, she'd say I was asking her to choose sides, herself or me. "I don't want to get involved," she'd say. But she was always involved. Silence is involvement. Neutrality is a decision. The clearest moment came at a party hosted by one of her senior colleagues. It was supposed to be a celebration. I tried harder that night. I dressed carefully. I spoke less. I smiled more. Someone brought up money. Another person joked about real providers and looked straight at me. My wife was standing beside me. She heard it. I know she did. She stepped away. She physically moved closer to the group laughing and left me standing alone with my drink, my face burning, my hands shaking slightly. No one apologized. No one corrected the comment. The moment passed like it always did. That night, something in me finally broke, not loudly, not dramatically. Quietly. Cleanly. I realized I had been waiting for something that was never coming. Not once had she said, "That's my husband. Don't speak to him like that." Not once had she corrected a lie, softened a jab, or drawn a line. Not once had she chosen my dignity over her comfort. I went home early. She came back hours later, annoyed that I'd left without telling her. She said I embarrassed her. That word, embarrassed, settled into me like a final verdict. I stopped trying after that. Not in obvious ways. I still cooked, still paid bills, still showed up. But I stopped offering my inner life to her. I stopped asking for understanding. I stopped expecting loyalty. I started noticing how often she defended other people. She defended her friends when they were wrong. She defended coworkers she barely liked. She defended strangers in conversations where it made her look thoughtful and fair. She had a strong voice, just not when it came to me. The loneliness of that realization was heavier than any insult I'd endured. It wasn't that she disagreed with me. It was that she never thought I was worth standing up for. I began to understand that the marriage wasn't failing loudly. It was eroding silently, grain by grain, every time she chose not to speak. The final conversation wasn't explosive. It was calm, almost polite. I told her how I felt. I told her how long I'd felt it. I gave examples, not accusations. I spoke carefully, respectfully, like someone who had already grieved. She listened, arms crossed, eyes distant. When I finished, she said, "I didn't know you felt that way." I believed her. That was the tragedy of it. Because it meant she hadn't noticed my shrinking. Or she had, and it hadn't mattered. "I can't be responsible for your feelings," she said. "You need thicker skin." That was the moment I understood something important. She didn't see my pain as a signal. She saw it as a flaw. We separated not long after. There was no cheating, no dramatic betrayal. Just a quiet acknowledgement that whatever a partnership was supposed to be, this wasn't it. People asked what happened. She told them we grew apart. I didn't correct her. I was done explaining myself to rooms that had already decided who I was. What surprised me most was how light I felt afterward. Sad, yes. Lonely sometimes. But lighter. I began to speak again. I began to take up space. I noticed how different it felt to be around people who defended me without being asked, who corrected misunderstandings, who didn't laugh at my expense, who didn't treat my dignity as negotiable. I learned that love isn't proven in grand gestures. It's proven in small moments, when someone chooses you in rooms where it would be easier not to. My wife never defended me. Not once. And for a long time, I thought that meant I wasn't worth defending. Now I know better. It meant she wasn't willing to stand beside me when it mattered. And that told me everything I needed to know, just far later than I should have listened.